How's it going? My name is Michael and I want to welcome you as we continue to explore the topic of apologetics. Whether you're a believer looking to deepen your understanding, a skeptic searching for answers, or just someone who loves a good intellectual challenge, you're in the right place. The first Monday of every month, I want to journey with you and unpack some of the common objections to faith. Now, as always, I want to be clear, apologetics isn't just about winning arguments, it's about discovering truth, loving others through our answers, and growing in a deeper understanding of why we believe what we believe. Far too many apprentices of Jesus are unprepared for tough conversations about what they claim to put their trust in. So, we're trying to change that one conversation at a time. This week, I want to tackle the objection, how can you trust a book that doesn't condemn slavery? And honestly, that's a fair question. If you just skim certain passages in the Old Testament or even in Paul's letters, it seems like the Bible is giving a thumbs up to slavery. And so let's talk about that and see what's really going on. Now, when we hear the word slavery, our minds go straight to the transatlantic slave trade, people being kidnapped, chained, shipped across oceans, and treated like property because of the skin color. That system was fueled by racism, greed, and brutality, and it's a dark stain on human history. But what you need to know is that when the Bible uses the word slave or servant, it's talking about something very different. In the ancient world, especially in the time of Moses, slavery was more like indentured servitude. Think of it like a last resort social safety net in the world without bankruptcy, welfare, loans, or job insurance. Today, if you need money to buy a home, you get a mortgage and then you have to make a bi-weekly or monthly payment in order to keep your home or else you lose it. In ancient times, if you owed money, you could sell your labor to pay off what you owed. In other words, slavery in Israel was often voluntary, temporary, and economic, not racial, abusive, or permanent. In fact, Exodus 21 lays down some pretty radical rules compared to the surrounding cultures. Slaves had rights and legal protections. Masters couldn't treat them harshly or beat them without consequences to themselves. Every 7th year, slaves were to be set free. And when they were freed, owners had to send them away with gifts and resources so that they could start fresh. Something critical really to keep in mind as you read the Jewish scriptures is that the Old Testament was a step forward, not the finish line. When you look at the Old Testament laws, it's easy to forget the direction they're pointing. God wasn't giving Israel the perfect society overnight. He was taking a violent ancient culture and moving it toward justice, compassion, and freedom one step at a time. So yeah, the Old Testament includes laws about slavery, but those laws were a leash on human sin, not a license for it. They restricted what was normal in ancient empires like Egypt, Babylon, or Assyria, where slaves had zero rights and could be killed on a whim. And so here's something fascinating too. Built into Israel's story is a reminder that they were once slaves in Egypt. Over and over again, God tells them, remember that you were slaves and I rescued you. You see, that memory was supposed to shape how they treated others. Israel's laws weren't celebrating slavery, they were limiting it and planting the seeds for something new. Now, fast forward to the New Testament, and we see those seeds start to grow. Yes, Paul and Peter write to slaves and masters, but again, remember, slavery was woven into every layer of the Roman Empire. In the 1st and 2nd centuries, roughly 85 to 90% of the population were slaves or of slave origin, and those slaves weren't identifiable by race, they weren't owned, they weren't segregated in society, they couldn't be killed on a whim or tortured. In fact, historians point out that slaves were the trusted servants, teachers, librarians, accountants, and estate managers. This is the world that Jesus stepped into. So think about it. Jesus couldn't just snap his fingers and end an entire economic system overnight. Instead, Jesus trusted that the gospel would begin transforming those systems from the inside out. That's why we see Paul telling slaves and masters something radical, not rise up and revolt, which would have led to mass slaughter, but something even more subversive. In Ephesians chapter 6, verse 9, he says, Masters, treat your slaves in the same way. Do not threaten them, since you know that he who is both their master and yours is in heaven. He also writes in Galatians chapter 3, verse 28, there is neither Jew nor Gentile, slave nor free, male nor female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus. When it comes to slavery, the Bible consistently pulls humanity towards freedom, equality, and dignity. That's why when Christians in history have truly followed Jesus' teaching, they've been at the forefront of abolition. Think William Wilberforce in England or Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass in America. They fought slavery because of their faith, not in spite of it. They read the Bible and saw that from Genesis to Revelation, humans are made in the image of God, and Jesus came to set captives free. In fact, the story of the gospel itself is a slavery story. Jesus rescues us from the cruel master of sin and death, and when he does, he launches a kingdom where there are no slaves, only sons and daughters. And so what do we do with awkward verses like slaves obey your masters? It just sounds so wrong to our modern ears. But when you look closer, you realize the Bible is speaking into specific cultural realities, not giving timeless moral approval. Slaves obey your masters isn't saying slavery is good, it's saying here's how to live faithfully even when you're stuck in an unjust system. Now, Jesus never directly says slavery is wrong, but he does something far more powerful. He redefines greatness as servanthood. He kneels down, washes his disciples' feet, and he tells them that whoever wants to be first must be a slave to all. In doing that, he flips the whole hierarchy of power upside down. You see, the gospel doesn't need a verse to outlaw slavery, it simply outloves it. And so here's the bottom line. The God of the Bible doesn't endorse slavery. He invades it, transforms it, and ultimately destroys it through his kingdom ethics. And that's the hope we cling to today, that the same God who freed Israel from Egypt and broke our chains of sin is still in the business of setting people free.